Um, this is the first episode of Fridays with Anne, and we are here with homeopath Anne Verwarke. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Joost. Glad to be here.
I'm very glad to have you. And this is going to be a series of questions and answers. We have the opportunity to ask the experienced homeopath, and today we want to talk about some aspects of animal cases. So I have a couple of questions which I would like to ask you, and I will start straight away with the first one. From various teachers of the sensation method, we have learned that topics or traits of animal cases are themes of attack, aggression, and sexuality, competition. And I would like to know, in your experience now, especially in the more recent experience of the last few years, is this still a good pointer to recognizing an animal case?
Okay, that's a very good question. First, I want to say that I'm happy with this Fridays with Anna. I think it's a very good idea and it's a very good opportunity to explain things a bit further. As you said, from experience. We have a theory, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So, yeah, animal cases, for one thing, are very often difficult, and because the pointers we have are sometimes misleading. In some cases they apply, and in a lot of cases they don't. And so we miss the animal case, or we think we have an animal case when we don't. When we actually are in another kingdom. Kingdom information in general is very useful, I think, and from my perspective, it is reliable. Um, but there are a few buts. We have to understand a few things before. This means we have to be sure that the information we will use for our analysis comes from the vital. Maybe that's a topic for another question and answer session, because I can elaborate on that, but it's not the topic of today. But if we are sure that the information we have comes from the vital, then we very often, how to say, um, limit, that's the question, limit our view on animal cases to these words. And the words you mentioned are the words that are used in the beginning when the kingdom theory was launched, and it was very good. We have to start somewhere. But it mainly applies to predators, as the killing and the aggression and the whatnot is mostly these predator words, and the most outspoken, the most easily recognizable, and they come forward in the first provings we have. We have this like eagle provings, I mean the first modern provings, and we had little animal cases before, the classical ones like Lachesis and maybe Lacaninem, and if we had a handful of where aggression was not so much on the foreground. So when we had this new provings like Leoninum or Eagle, and this aggression was, and the violence and the kill was very much on the foreground, which is normal for predator animals. But the majority, I have to say, is not. They're not predators, you can call them prey, but of course, no animal is born a prey. It's just that herbivores, let's say it like that. They're not animal eaters, they're not herbivores. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons we often miss them. Yes, it is reliable, but only in, let's say, the minority of cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. That these are good pointers, but for predator remedies, which are in the great minority. there are not so many predator animals, and there is a huge amount of, if you take all the, not all, but many of the insects and many of the mammals are not predators. Are
No, you're right. Not only they're not predators, but even if they are, like insects,
mhm,
it is not that outspoken violence that we associate with the chase. And, I call it always the National Geographic picture. That's
mhm,
what they always want us to believe, that nature is cruel, and it's a chase, and it's a
yeah,
fight, and it's a kill, and it's very bloody, and it's eating parts of, slaughtering. It's all very cruel and harsh and scary. While actually, nature is cooperative in general.
mhm,
Of
mhm,
course, we have to eat. We do eat as well. We eat plants, but we kill plants if you want to eat them. That's the that is how nature works. Everybody eats,
mhm,
but the main thing is not the violence and the competition for survival. That's not the main thing. And so we are maybe taught to look at nature that way, which is in fact a bit of a false picture.
mhm.
Even between the chase, the lion is asleep, and the
Yeah,
zebra walks very peacefully along the sleeping lion.
and
Which
after the fight as well, there
is
is a
after the fact.
fight.
Yeah,
Then someone lost, someone won, and that's it.
exactly. So in a lot of the other lesser known kingdoms, if you want, the fight, the chase, the kill is not so prominent, although they might be carnivores, although
Mhm.
although they might eat each other, like
Yeah,
spiders or insects. eh.
yeah,
But it's not that imaginary that we have of this bloody killing thing.
yeah.
What we will find though is an awareness of a danger very often.
Mhm,
So it is not always this openly violent behavior, but often the fear of the threat,
mhm,
which is somewhere in the background. And a lot of animal cases will not talk about this fight to the finish, as we know from lion, for instance. That but they will have in a more human way this competition, if you want, of this comparison, and it comes down to him or me, but in a more human form. That means there's only one winner. There's only one who can be the best.
yeah,
It's like the winner takes it all. The second prize is no prize at all, really, in Animal Kingdom. You have
yeah,
it or you lose it.
yeah.
You are a winner or a loser. There's no win-win situation. We not all of us are winning. That is impossible in Animal Kingdom. So the human needing an animal remedy will talk in this way, which we might overlook because it's not that overtly violent. It's just this competition, it's this comparison. And then
Yeah.
we know for sure we're in an animal kingdom. Like, is he better? Is she more beautiful? Is he more rich? Is he more successful?
Mhm.
Even even a physical complaint can be experienced like becoming less. And the patient doesn't need to say less in the competition for survival, but this will be in the background. This
Yeah.
is what we
Mhm.
should understand.
Speaking of this, so we already noticed that the animal cases are compensated, are not expressing as openly. They're not saying straight away, yes, this is my rival, this is my competitor, and I have to eliminate them because I want to be at the top.
They probably
So
won't say
no.
it.
So is this a trait only pertinent to animals, that they will have this sensation of a threat, or also this competitiveness, this wanting to be the best?
Well, there are a few things in issues in your question. You know, the compensation. Is the compensation only in animals? Of course not. Is the competition only in animals? Of course not. But it will be expressed in a particular way in animals, because everybody can have an ambition. Plant cases or bacteria cases, you can be ambitious, which
Yeah.
is different. Then you do it for your own sake, like for your own well-being, for your feeling okay with yourself. Like I'm I'm good in that, you know. I
Yeah.
achieved something,
Mm-hmm.
or I proved something to my father or whatever. But in an animal case, this comparison is there really in the background. Their condition to be okay is to be the best, is to win. Because if they don't win, they lose. If they're
Mm-hmm.
not, um, if they're not the aggressor, they are the victim,
Mm-hmm.
and they feel victimized, dominated, looked down upon. You know, it's
Yeah.
always a matter of higher and lower. There's
Mm-hmm.
always a hierarchy. If you achieve something as a plant, you might as well be at the same level of another achiever.
Mm-hmm.
In an animal kingdom, you're superior or inferior.
Yeah.
There's no equality in
Yeah.
animal kingdom. See, and that's the competition, whether it's compensated or not.
Mm-hmm.
That will be in the background, and why it is a condition to be okay. Why you have this jealousy and this envy and this, you know, this revenge, and you know, these are the animal qualities. You want to
Mm-hmm.
revenge, or you feel like you know you want to retaliate if somebody did something to you, or you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you were not appreciated or dominated, or
Yeah.
you want to retaliate. And that is not a very nice thing to feel or to do. So a lot of our patients will compensate for that. They
Right.
will tell how bad the other behaved, you know, how wrong they were, how evil, you know.
Uh-huh.
So they justify their feelings, but you will always have this impression that in an animal case, the other is the problem. It's not
Mm-hmm.
you. The problem is not in yourself. It's not in your self doubt or you know whatever. It is because the other did something to you, because the other is in your way, because the other didn't appreciate you, because the other violated you. You see, animal,
Yeah.
the other is the problem, not the one,
Yeah.
but always somebody else.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Um, so it will be quite subtle, the hints, right?
Yeah,
Would you say that they, as a family of remedies, have the strongest compensation and therefore the hints will be the subtlest?
yeah, you're right. I think very often these animal-like features are not very nice. So if you feel violent, if you really want to get rid of somebody because you know he's in your way to whatever you need to be or to become or to maintain, uh, you won't tell it openly. Like I would just like to, you know, strangle him or her, or you just I want to poison him. You won't tell it openly, although you might think about it. Like, what would be the best way to get away with, you know, exterminating him?
Yeah.
Perfect crime,
Uh-huh.
but you won't tell it. Or you might have these, you know, these violent imaginations that you know, he or she gets an accident or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you won't tell it. You want to uh, wait for your chance for revenge,
Yeah.
scheme a plan to just get back to him. You can imagine that it's not something you would like to admit, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, then you know you put yourself above these feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You become you more holy like than the Pope. You know, these these instinctive feelings are not very well tolerated. You
Mm.
know, even aggression, you know, it's human, but even that is something that we all should suppress. And then
Yeah.
in an animal case, as it is more than average, you know, the suppression must be even more.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So I suppose then that in predator cases, you would have maybe clearer indications because the pattern is one of um, dominating or winning, killing, being aggressive and attacking. But then with the other animals, I know they're not prey animals, but let's call them now for the sake of easiness, call them prey animals. How would you then take into consideration the compensation? What would you say are good indicators in that case of an animal case? Also maybe in differentiation with plants.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it depends a little bit on the subkingdom.
Mm-hmm.
But for all kingdoms, I would say comparison is a good indicator
Mm-hmm.
for all subkingdoms. So they will compare to other people, and comparing can even be as subtle as I my hair, I lose my hair. My hair is falling, and you worry about that. And of course, a lot of people would worry if they lose their hair. But if you question them, it will make them somehow less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, less, and they don't have to even say less beautiful, but less always means less than somebody else, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you even might ask yourself in a case like this, they have pain here and a pain there, and kind of a serious problem somewhere else, and the main complaint is losing their hair, while all you can see is still a lot of hairs on the head. And
Yeah.
you wonder, why is it so important? And then you
Mm-hmm.
have to understand that they compare themselves to others, and if it makes you less, you have less chance to have, the
Mm-hmm.
the super alpha wolf male that you want to have
Yeah.
because you're less beautiful. So this
And that
comparison,
also applies, that even also applies to the prey animals, yes?
oh yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
comparison is there, but the prey animals will have this, they are more fearful. If they compare, there will be more fear.
Mm.
Like the predators will like pride on their power.
Yeah.
So, but the on the other side, there's a lot of fear, danger, threat, and so also complaints or comparison will be like soaked in this fear of losing, of ending in the gutter. But if you ask what does it mean, it will like a rat, will be
Mm-hmm.
like treated like a rat or killed
Yeah.
like a rat or something.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's a comparison that is reliable, and
Mm-hmm.
then like in mammal cases, you can expect a lot of fear
Yeah.
because a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are herd animals, and they're eaten, by
Yeah.
the big predators,
Yeah.
chased and eaten. So there's a lot of fear and the need for protection, and in the group there will be group issues like individuality compared to group issues. So depending on the sub kingdom, there will be more um, subtle, if you want,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely subtle traits. But the other is the problem, and the comparison I would expect in all animal cases.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Um, Now, another aspect that I found very interesting going through your educational video on animals again
Okay.
was thinking of the different age groups.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the different presentation, or maybe how it changes over a lifetime, the expression of animal cases in childhood and teenagers and in adults then?
Yeah, that's a very good question because I'm afraid that a whole lot of children end up with animal remedies just because they're children. For no other reason than they
Uh-huh.
as children, which is
Uh-huh.
mostly uncompensated. Yeah,
Yeah.
and uncompensated childhood behavior is like if they're angry, they show it. They
Yeah.
show their anger.
Mm-hmm.
If they're egotistical and they want something, from their little brother or sister, they probably will take it.
They will be domineering.
They
Yeah.
will be domineering, and if he doesn't want to give it, they probably will beat them up.
They will
Obviously,
attack.
they will attack. Yeah, they just behave like children. So
Uh-huh.
it's that is where we go wrong. We feel
Mhm.
like they're beating and they're openly violent and egotistical. Want to be the best. Want to be the first. Want to have the
Mhm.
most. Of course, they're children, right? So that is childhood behavior, not animal behavior.
Mhm.
Child needing an animal will show, uh, I hesitate to say it a little bit, but like more instinctive traits.
Mhm.
Instinctive in the sense that they might make sounds, or they might crawl like an animal, or I even had a little boy. He was almost more dog than his little dog.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
How dog could you be?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He growled and he walked around and he
Uh-huh.
licked his mother, and
Okay, yeah.
yeah, they will behave like little animals.
Like that animal, actually, yeah.
I had a little
Uh-huh.
cat case. It was like Philinum, a 2-year-old boy. Now you won't even believe it, but the little one only ate fish and drank milk,
Okay.
and he was so possessive of his mother.
Uh-huh.
It was really his mother, and he used to scratch her and bite her all of the time.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
And he was at times so violent when he was angry that she was afraid of him.
Mm.
So that's not regular childhood behavior. That is the
Mm.
strange and peculiar that we are
Mhm.
looking for.
Mhm.
But as you rightly mentioned, like it will change in the course of time. So children will be most likely uncompensated, and the compensation will grow. And I have to say, um, that's in all cases. As we grow up, we somehow unconsciously learn to live with our state.
Yes.
We
Mhm.
don't know our state, but we
Yeah.
know how we are
Yeah.
somehow without
Mhm.
expressing it explicitly. So we learn in the course of time to avoid the situations and circumstances that make us very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And we tend to go in the direction of the conditions for us that makes us feel okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's why most of the patients will say, I have this and that problem, I feel this and that way, but it was much worse before.
Mhm.
Probably it was
Yeah.
before they learn how to cope with it,
Yeah.
how to deal with it,
Mhm.
how to avoid the difficulties. But that's what we call growing up.
Yeah.
That's people
Yeah.
will say, "Oh, nothing
Socializing.
changed." What did you say?
It's also socializing, yeah.
It's socializing, but it's also making it easier on yourself.
Mhm.
That's what people will call, I'm not the same anymore. I changed. Before I used to blah, 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 and now I don't do this, I do the other thing.
Mhm.
But that is not growing up, it's coping up with your state. And in an animal case, this coping up very often will take the form of compensation, like
Yeah. Mhm.
denying or doing the other thing. Just the
Yeah.
contrary, I'm not afraid of big dogs, you know what I mean.
Yeah. How much are you not afraid of dogs? Yeah.
And how big?
Yeah. Okay. So, um, I have to look a little bit at the time. The
Sure.
Another very interesting point for me and for other homeopaths, I'm sure as well, is then we have we are catching up a little bit with animals in our Materia Medica, but it's very underrepresented in a very underrepresented kingdom in the Materia Medica still in comparison to minerals and plants. So we would often think, okay, this seem to be general traits of an animal, uh, but I have no clue. It doesn't fit in my scheme what I have so far of subkingdoms or even species. So what can we do?
What can we do? Well, we have to learn a lot more because, as you said, um, there are some subkingdoms absolutely underrepresented, like fish. You know, I just published, or there was an article published of my hand in Similia about fish cases. We don't have many fish,
Yeah.
and I'm afraid most people needing a fish, most patients needing a fish, end up with a bird.
Mm.
Strangely enough,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because they because they often they will talk about flying
Right.
or soaring or
Yeah.
being weightless, and we think, ah, it's a bird. Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
as people, we don't associate being free in the water because we can't breathe in the water. We
Mm-hmm.
associate the water with suffocating.
Yeah.
So this feeling of being light, weightless and light and floating, we project it in the air
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's our imaginary. And so the
Yeah.
homeopath will think he has a bird case. So we have to expand our knowledge. That's simply said
Mm-hmm.
about these subtle these differences. Um, and the other thing is, even if you recognize, let's say, a bird or an insect, then still you have thousands of possibilities.
Yes, exactly.
And the best thing you can do then is, um, let's say for birds, if you're sure you have a bird case, and then you said, okay, but we have still thousands and thousands of possibilities, then you still have to boil it down to, let's say, a group or a class.
Yeah.
Is it a predator? Is it a swimming bird? Is it a singing bird? Is it
Mm-hmm.
a traveling bird? Is it
Mm-hmm.
the domesticated bird? Boil it down to even smaller groups, and then hopefully you can find a representative in the provings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't need all species on Earth. It is impossible to prescribe like that. But let's say you need what I could say, or either a goose or a duck or something. We only have a few provings, and then we have to go to our materia medica.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but let's say now what you say for fish. Um, we cannot always go to analogies from nature, I would suppose, that, right? Even with because it would, well, one thing is that we need to know how animals behave in nature really to know the analogies, but even these analogies don't always hold true in homeopathy. Is that right, for subkingdoms?
Yeah, exactly. Because usually I said in my lessons, these animals, the animal awareness is still expressed in a human.
Hmm.
Like snakes don't come crawling on their belly into our offices.
Yeah.
They have legs. I mean, they're still humans. Birds don't fly into our offices. They
Hmm.
sit in a chair. So we have to understand that there is no complete overlap of the
Yeah.
behavior of the animal and the animal um, vital disturbance in a human. So there
Yeah.
will be aspects, but it's not completely overlapping.
Yeah.
It's impossible. A snake in nature isn't scheming a revenge, is not jealous, is not loquacious, to say a thing.
Yeah.
So we have to absolutely rely on the provings. I think the provings are more reliable than our study, our research on Wikipedia of the habitat of the animal and the behavior of the animal.
Hmm.
There might
Yeah.
be hints there, but I don't think we can rely on them too much.
And as easily generalize them, that's better with the proving symptoms that you, yeah. Hmm.
There's a mixture over there, in the homeopathic community. There's a mixture, and very often I find it confusing. There's books like, let's say, on um, these sea creatures, these shells, and the way the creature is described in all details, you don't find it in patients.
Yeah.
What you find in patients is some general features of sea creatures, let's say sea characteristics, and then the specifics. And yes, if you have a shell, they might do like this, this hand gesture, but
Yeah.
they might as well not do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
still need a Venus.
Exactly. They might not retract into their shell, but
Yeah,
still need a shell.
not literally, but they will have the human expression of being very, very vulnerable, which holds true for the real species, which is a vulnerable creature, but there are millions of vulnerable creatures out there. And having this hesitation to go out, lest it will be, devoured or disappear. It is something like that, because that's the fear, that you will be so overwhelmed that you will just disappear. And so, indeed, they withdraw, but it's a human withdrawal, and then feel isolated, which is again a human feeling. I have difficulty to imagine a shell feeling isolated. See?
Yeah. It probably grows up with this sensation, and that's normal for it.
Comes up with it, I'm sure.
Exactly, yeah. So, as with all the animal, or even more so with the animal cases, we cannot just take, okay, this is a person and it describes it's himself without being without limbs. So, it's a snake. No, because it can also be, I remember well, an Ambra grisea case, which also was speaking of this feeling without legs.
Yeah.
And of course, a whale doesn't have legs, but so do many other animals. So we cannot focus on one feature. We have to put them all together to a coherent pattern, and it won't be, as I understand in animal cases, such a succession of logical steps, and this comes from this, and so this is this animal. No, it will be here a part, and there a part, and here.
Yeah, like in all cases, you have to be very alert for the strange and peculiar. And it might be in an animal cases like distributed, as you said, all over the case, but you have to be very alert, because there will be lots of talks. It's a third dimension case. We can talk about the dimension in another moment. But
Yeah.
a third dimension case is vivacious, and it's a lot of examples and stories, and you will be interested in their story. And even there's a danger that you get so caught up in the story that you miss these little strange and peculiar things that they throw out.
Yeah.
But if you have them, as you said, you only have to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Because they will throw them, but not building up on one issue.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah. It's not building up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No. Great. Okay. So to wrap up, we learned a little bit more about the animals, how they express, and how other unknown animals express, and how they express over how the compensation kicks in.
Yeah.
Only in the later childhood, and then manifests in the adults. And we have many more topics already for further chats.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you very much, and I look forward to our next one.
It was my pleasure. See you later.
Bye, Anne.
Bye.